what is your favorite of these four trades?
So before I do that, I kind of want to break down each trade because I have notes on each of the trades. So I'll start with the Denver one first, and then I'll tell you my favorite. So when I look at this trade that Denver would get Bojan, Alec Burks, and a 2026 first round pick lottery protected for Michael Porter Jr. When I look at 148 million owed to Michael Porter Jr. for a guy that averages 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist a game, no, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
That's just too much money for a guy that just scores the basketball and doesn't facilitate. If Michael Porter Jr. came to Detroit, he would probably become a second option next to Cade Cunningham. And I just don't know if I'm willing to invest 148 million over the next couple of years for a guy that has one elite skill, and that's scoring the basketball. I think for 148 million, for me, I would be out. And the injury history for me, I'm kind of like, I know he's been healthy over the past couple of seasons, but that back does scare me, and I don't know how much longer it will hold up because there was some real talks about him not being able to play basketball again because his back was that bad.
Real quick though, do you think though there could be more to his game, but we're not seeing all of it because of the team he currently plays for?
Yeah, I think there's more there, but it's just with the contract, I'm not willing to invest $148 million over the next couple of seasons when I know I'm going to have to extend my franchise player in Cade Cunningham and possibly Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren. You might not have enough money to extend all three of those guys. And I've told you before, I think those are the three foundation pieces that you need to build around.
Yeah.
So with the Cavs trade, I absolutely hate it.
Same.
I think it makes no sense. You just drafted Asar Thompson. The second round picks, they're okay. I'm not really too high on Isaac Okoro. I think if the Pistons wanted to trade Alec Burks, I think they get more value for it, in my opinion, anyways. He's one of the best bench scorers in the NBA. So for the Cavs trade, I was kind of out. The Grizzlies trade, again, I think Brandon Clark, great. Zaire Williams, kind of like a mystery. You don't really know what's there, but like Brandon Clark is still injured. Like if you
I forgot about that.
If you trade for him, he's not going to be available. And if you look at Zaire Williams, he's just not consistent enough for me to trade for.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at his numbers since he's entered the league. It's just like if I give you more minutes, will you produce? And you just don't know. And I think if you're going to trade, again, one of the best bench scorers in the NBA and Alec Burks, to me, I think I would be out. Like, I think I can get more value for Alec Burks. I'd rather keep him if that's the best that, Memphis could offer. And the Knicks trade, I think to me, you asked me which one was my favorite. This was my favorite. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
When you look at this trade on the surface, the Knicks are getting Bojan, right? Pistons are getting Evan Fournier and their draft pick back, meaning those protections, they're coming back to Detroit. The Pistons could trade that 2024 pick if they wanted to go trade for a star right now. The reason why I like this trade so much, and I wrote this down. So Evan Fournier's contract, if you look at it, he's owed $18 million this season. He's got a club option going into next season, meaning the Pistons don't want to have Evan Fournier in their roster. They can just create $18-19 million in cap space, and you get your draft pick back. To me, that is so damn tempting, Lance. That is so tempting. Like, you get your draft pick back from the Christian Wood, Isaiah Stewart trade. If Fournier kind of has like a resurgence, you got another guy that can knock down 3-point shots, along with all the veterans that you already have on the court. Like, I remember Evan Fournier in his Magic days. He was carrying that team, averaging like 18, 19 points a game as a starting two guard. But hey, if he just kind of lays an egg and a stinker, he's got a club option. You can kind of just wave it and say, look, I don't give a shit. Like, bye. Like, and you have $19 million of cap space you could spend on free agents. So for me, I love the New York Knicks trade. All the other trades, they're kind of like meh. Like, I'm not really like in love with them. I don't really think the Pistons get better. When you look at a talent acquisition standpoint, I really don't think, investing close to $150 million in a Michael Porter Jr. would be worth it if you're looking at the long-term future of this basketball team. But for me, I love the New York Knicks trade. But what about you? Out of all these four?
Okay, so my favorite, I'll start with that one. My favorite trade is the Memphis Grizzlies one. The Evan Fournier one, I, I do like that trade a lot because I actually am a fan of Evan Fournier. I still think there's a solid scorer in there. I just think he was better on New York's bench because of Thibodeau. But anyways, let me talk about this Michael Porter Jr. one though. I do hate the contract. I love the player though, and the reason I hate the contract, I don't mind him getting $30 million because I think this is a guy that could easily get you 25 a night. He could probably easily be one of the best scorers in the NBA. It's just not something he has to do with so much star power on Denver. But his contract, it's a quarter. It's a quarter, 25% of the salary cap for the Denver Nuggets. But I think as a catch and shoot player and a guy that can move without the ball and the guy that can shoot it as well as him, he would be a phenomenal piece to play alongside Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, and Asar Thompson as they drive and kick and they look for someone to make a shot. He would be your guy. He would eat it up in Detroit with those three guys running the floor with him. He can run in transition. He's a good trailer. He's more of a downhill dribbler, like gets it. They try to run him off. Like he's not much of a one-on-one isolation player, but he can get to the hole and he can finish around the rim. I think there's more of a playmaker because I went back and watched some of his highlights from this past season. He's just not asked to be a playmaker, but he definitely has some good on-court awareness. Leaves a little bit desired on the defensive side, but he knows how to play passing lanes. He'll get his hands there. I really love Michael Porter Jr., and I think he would be an absolute monster in Detroit with those guys, and he would definitely play that 4 spot. But you're right, that contract is way too much for a guy that, yeah, he played 62 games, but he only played 9 games last year, 19 if you include the 10 playoff games. Then he played 61 the year before, then 55, missed his entire rookie season back in 2018 and 2019 with a back injury. Who knows if that's actually behind him? And yes, that is a little bit of a joke because it's a back injury and behind. But it's not my favorite. I know I just went and talked about it a ton. My favorite trade is the Memphis Grizzlies one because, again, the theme of this podcast for me has just been talking about how bad the front court depth is for the Detroit Pistons. But you get someone like Brandon Clark, a high IQ player that can play the 4 to the 5. He's a good passer out of that 5 spot. He's one of the best athletes in the NBA, especially at that 5 spot. He can finish. I think I could be getting the numbers wrong. I don't have them in front of me, but I think if he had qualified, he would have been one of the top 4, would have been one of the leaders in field goal percentage. I think he shot like 64% or something like that this past season. I actually want to look that up myself because I don't want to sound like an idiot. But yeah, I love that trade just for Brandon Clark and what he could bring to this Detroit Pistons team. Okay, shot 66% from the field, so I was technically wrong at 64. But he's a good rebounder, knows when to make cuts, can find those little holes in the defense, has a great little floater in the mid-range. It's just he's a solid player. He's just a little undersized at 6'8", but he makes up for it in his athleticism. I already told you I dislike the Cavaliers trade. But what is so would the Cavaliers be your least favorite then?
Yeah, to me, it makes no sense. Like, you just drafted Asar. Why would you want someone that's kind of like a carbon copy, but like a lesser player?
Yeah. What trade is the most realistic to you?
I think the most realistic would probably be the Knicks one.
Ooh, okay.
I really do. Like, because you kind of look at Evan Fournier, because I was just like, man, Tibbs doesn't play him at all. Like, he played a couple of games throughout the season, but like he just did not play him at all. And I don't know if there's something there. I don't know if maybe he's just maybe in the doghouse with Tom Thibodeau. But like, I just remember, cause I used to watch a lot of Magic games. I was just like, dude, he used to be like a 18 point per game scorer for the Magic, and like he just doesn't play with Tibbs. Maybe he doesn't, show up to practice. I just saw an interview with Joakim Noah saying how Kyle Korver would show up to practice and he used to be sitting in his car because Tom Thibodeau's practices were just ridiculous. But hey, maybe he does that. I don't know. But I think getting that draft pick. What's that?
Oh, I was just going to say his last 26 games with Orlando, he averaged 20 a game with 4 assists and 3 rebounds. That's Evan Fournier. But yeah, with that draft pick, that makes it the most realistic.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at a realistic trade, I think that makes the most sense. I think a lot of Pistons fans would probably want the draft pick back because we always talk about it. We're like, yeah, it's top 18 protected this year. Like if the Pistons come out and they win like let's say 50 games this year, that draft pick goes to the New York Knicks.
So, which of these 4 trades benefits the Pistons the most, in your opinion?
Like from a beneficial standpoint, I still think it's the Knicks trade. I think the Knicks trade to me makes the most sense. But the 2 Alec Burks trades, I don't really get. You got Brandon Clark, who's coming off an Achilles injury. You have Zaire Williams, who hasn't really proven anything in the NBA. And I think the Okoro trade, another Burks trade again, I would rather keep him. I think Burks is more valuable than Isaac Okoro in a couple seconds from a couple of years down the road. Like, I think if you do trade Alec Burks, you got to get something in equal return. Like a lot, those trades to me just kind of seem one-sided.
Yeah, he's in 3 of the 4. He's also in the Michael Porter Jr. trade with the Denver Nuggets. But I think the one that would benefit the most, even though he is still hurt and he's coming off that Achilles injury, I think Brandon Clark would add the most. Like he would help out the Pistons tremendously. I mean, I do think Michael Porter Jr. would, but that just doesn't seem realistic at all for me just because of how big his contract is. But man, Brandon Clark, when healthy, I think he'd be a tremendous piece with the Detroit Pistons. And I would love for that trade to happen.